Hi there and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be making pumpkin bread using the dried pumpkin puree that I made in my other video, and we're going to put in a touch of cinnamon. So the first step is we're going to prepare the dough. We're going to mix all the dry ingredients together and then we're going to mix in our liquids. You want your pumpkin puree and your water to be room temperature. And you want to give your dry ingredients a good mix before you add your liquids into it. For this recipe I'm using an instant dried yeast, which makes it a little bit more versatile because you can just add it straight into the flour and then mix in your liquids to form a dough. We need to mix the liquids in quite thoroughly. The dough almost has a two-stage hydration process because initially it will be hydrated from the water, and then when you start kneading it later it will take on more of the moisture from the pumpkin puree and become wetter. I like to finish incorporating all the flour into the dough on the table. I just find it easier to work with. But if you had a stand mixer, obviously you wouldn't need to do this. You could just put it all in the stand mixer and mix it together. So here we can see that it looks like it's still quite dry as it takes the rest of the flour from the table. But you just don't add any more water, but you just want to keep kneading it. And soon you're going to see that it's going to become very sticky and very wet again. So here we can see now we've got a really sticky dough. The expression goes, the wetter the better. And we're going to knead it for about 5 to 6 minutes to develop the gluten structure. So after about 5 or 6 minutes of firm kneading, you'll find that the dough has become less sticky. It's still going to be quite wet, but it should stick to your hands a lot less, and you'll find that it comes away from the table a lot easier. At this point we're then going to move to a different technique of where we're going to slap and fold it to finish the gluten development in the dough. So we proceed with this method for another 2 to 3 minutes. As you can see from the video, the dough is starting to look a lot smoother and very elastic. We're going to rest the dough for 3 minutes and then come back and do a window pane test. So after the 30 minutes rest, we're going to move on to a process of stretching and folding. This helps to gently incorporate some air into the dough, and it will allow for a slightly more open crumb with the end product. So we're going to repeat this process for a second time and then rest the dough again for another 30 minutes. And then we're going to place it into a container for what's called bulk fermentation. So the stretch and folds were part of the proving process. So the bulk fermentation can take probably anywhere from 2 to 4 hours depending on the temperature of your room. So it's ready when it's completely doubled in volume, and it will feel very light when you pick it up, and this is obviously from all the carbon dioxide that's been produced from the yeast eating the sugars. So we're going to flour the top of the dough in the bulking container, and this will now always be the dry side of the dough. So we're going to have a dry side and a sticky side, and the sticky side here you can see is on top. So we stretch the dough out and dimple it a little bit with our fingers to just lightly degas it, and then we're going to fold the dough in on itself for the pre-shape, which is going to help to start create tension on the outside of the dough. So we've turned the dough back over onto so its dry side is on the top, and we've applied some tension pulls. We do this by just putting our fingers underneath the dough, gently pulling it towards us and turning it to make sure it's a very tight ball. We bench rest the dough for 20 minutes to allow the gluten to relax so we can knock it back a second time. During this period we can dust our banneton with rice flour, which will stop it from sticking when it's in the fridge overnight during the retarding process. So now's the final step before putting in the fridge overnight. We're going to turn the dough back over so the dry side is on the table, and we're going to knock it back for a second time. We're then going to perform the final shaping by folding the dough in on itself again, and again turn the dough then back over so the dry side is on the top, and apply more tension pulls. Knocking back a second time and applying these tension pulls will add strength and structure to the dough, which in turn will make the dough easier to handle when it comes out of the fridge. There'll be less chance of spreading, it'll make scoring it easier, a much more even oven spring. A light dusting of rice flour on top of the dough will reduce the chances of it sticking to the basket while it's retarding overnight in the fridge. So on bake day we preheat the oven with the Dutch oven pot inside it on maximum for an hour. The bread can go straight from the fridge into the Dutch oven, so once the Dutch oven has finished preheating we can remove the bread from the fridge, remove it from the banneton, check it initially just to make sure that none of the dough has stuck to the sides of the basket. I use some parchment paper and a board just to invert the dough onto the parchment paper. You can use a chopping board as well. So we remove the banneton, and now we're going to score the dough. We can brush off any excess rice flour that we don't want. We can see here that the dough is standing very proud, and that will be due to knocking back twice and applying those tension pulls. Score the dough and then put it straight into the Dutch oven, and replace the lid and put it straight into the hot oven and turn it down to 230 degrees C. And we're going to bake it for 20 minutes. After the 20 minutes we remove the pot from the oven and we're going to remove the lid. We turn the temperature down to 210 degrees C, and we're going to lift the bread out of the Dutch oven and put a trivet in so the bread doesn't over caramelize on the base. After a further 15 to 20 minutes of baking, the bread will be a dark blonde colour, and now it will be ready. Leave the bread to cool for 2 hours so it can cool down completely, and then it will be ready to cut and serve. Thanks for watching our pumpkin bread recipe. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you again in our next video. Please like, comment or subscribe, and have a good day.